They speak with certainty, make fast decisions, and rarely pause to doubt themselves. At first, it looks like confidence, competence, and natural leadership under pressure. Then patterns repeat as mistakes accumulate while authority remains strangely untouched. Something deeper than skill is selecting who rises and why. The presence of unqualified leaders is often explained as failure, corruption, or coincidence rather than a predictable psychological outcome. What appears as incompetence rising is frequently confidence being mistaken for capability under conditions of uncertainty and social pressure. Psychologist Carl Jung observed that the persona often outpaces the self, creating authority without inner substance. In group settings, certainty calms anxiety faster than accuracy ever could. A meeting stalls, and one person speaks decisively, offering direction without hesitation. Relief spreads through the room, despite the plan lacking depth. The nervous system prioritizes reduced uncertainty over long-term effectiveness. Leadership emerges not from knowledge, but from the ability to regulate collective discomfort. Evolutionary psychologists suggest early groups followed those who acted quickly during threat regardless of outcome. Delay once meant danger. That ancient bias still shapes modern hierarchies. A workplace promotion goes to the most assertive voice, not the most capable mind. Others feel overlooked, yet struggle to articulate why. Behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner noted that behaviors rewarded by immediate relief are reinforced even when harmful later. Decisiveness ends debate, quickly earning trust by ending tension. Competence requires time, nuance, and tolerance for doubt. Those qualities rarely soothe anxious systems. Unqualified leadership often survives because it feels stabilizing in the moment. The group confuses emotional regulation with strategic skill. Observers first notice the mismatch when consequences begin accumulating. Still, authority remains protected by perception rather than performance. Some people will recognize this immediately. The deeper origin of this pattern begins long before leadership titles ever appear. If you're still watching, you probably notice things most people miss. You question behavior. You look beneath the surface. If that sounds like you, subscribe. This channel was made for minds like yours. The tendency to elevate confidence over competence forms early through patterns of safety, threat, and social learning rather than rational evaluation. In childhood, the brain learns which behaviors reduce uncertainty fastest, then stores those responses as survival shortcuts. When authority figures reward quick answers more than careful thinking, the nervous system associates certainty with approval. A classroom moment unfolds where a child answers boldly despite being wrong and still receives attention. Another child hesitates, thinks carefully, and fades unnoticed. The lesson imprints quietly. Visibility matters more than accuracy. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl described how humans often seek certainty to escape inner anxiety rather than to discover truth. Decisiveness becomes soothing not because it is correct, but because it ends discomfort. Evolutionary psychologists suggest early human groups survived by following those who acted swiftly during threat. Speed once mattered more than precision. The body still carries that logic. A tribe facing danger could not wait for deliberation. Those who moved first appeared strong even when outcomes failed later. This bias toward action persists inside modern organizational structures. Fear accelerates decision-making while caution feels unsafe. A child raised in chaotic environments learns that hesitation invites punishment or loss. Assertiveness becomes armor. Over time, the armor is mistaken for leadership potential. Social learning compounds the pattern as peers defer to confident voices during uncertainty. The brain observes compliance and records effectiveness. Carl Jung observed that unconscious compensation often inflates the ego to cover inner doubt. Those most unsure internally may appear most certain externally. That appearance draws trust because it calms others. A family dynamic illustrates this quietly. One sibling dominates decisions confidently, while others withdraw, relieved someone has taken control. No one evaluates competence in that moment. Relief outweighs accuracy. Behavioral conditioning reinforces the role repeatedly. Each time assertiveness reduces tension, it becomes more entrenched. Neuroscience shows that ambiguity activates threat circuits, increasing desire for closure. Confident leadership provides closure instantly. The brain rewards it with trust. Another scene unfolds in adolescence. Group projects favor those who speak first and assign roles quickly. The group relaxes, responsibility dissolves, and authority forms. Outcome quality becomes secondary. Early successes reinforce the pattern before self-awareness develops. Confidence grows detached from feedback. Mistakes are reframed as external problems rather than internal limits. This protects identity while preserving dominance. Insecure environments amplify the effect. The less stable the system, the more it clings to certainty. Evolution did not select for wisdom under chaos, it selected for decisive action. Modern systems still respond as if chaos were constant. Parents often confuse obedience with leadership, reinforcing dominance displays. Teachers reward participation over reflection, unintentionally shaping hierarchy preferences. The brain adapts efficiently, not ethically. What stabilizes emotion gets prioritized. A young adult enters competitive spaces carrying these learned shortcuts. Confidence opens doors faster than competence ever could. Those doors reinforce belief and capability regardless of actual skill. Social proof accelerates the rise. Others assume someone elevated must deserve elevation. Authority becomes self-sustaining. Doubt becomes invisible. Viktor Frankl noted that fear of uncertainty drives humans toward rigid structures and strong figures. Unqualified leadership thrives where uncertainty feels intolerable. The leader need not be skilled, only convincing. Conviction substitutes for comprehension. A workplace crisis emerges and the loudest voice dictates direction. Colleagues comply, grateful someone appears certain. Later consequences disperse responsibility. No single moment challenges authority. The brain prefers immediate safety to delayed accountability. Over time, the pattern hardens into organizational culture. Leadership pipelines favor presentation over substance. Those comfortable with doubt self-exclude. Those intolerant of uncertainty rise quickly. The origin of unqualified authority is not stupidity, but adaptive fear. Fear seeks closure, certainty, and visible control. Confidence delivers all three instantly. Competence demands patience, vulnerability, and delayed reward. The nervous system rarely chooses that path under pressure. As these individuals move into broader social roles, the pattern becomes increasingly visible. The behavior learned for survival now plays out across entire systems, shaping who commands attention and power. In social life, the pattern becomes visible through who speaks first, longest, and most confidently rather than who understands complexity or consequence. People usually encounter it initially in others because distance makes the mismatch easier to observe. A friend group plans a trip and one person takes charge, rapidly assigning roles, dismissing concerns, and moving forward decisively. Relief spreads because uncertainty dissolves even as unspoken doubts linger. The group follows momentum, not competence. In relationships, authority often emerges through certainty rather than emotional literacy. One partner declares decisions, confidently framing direction as care while avoiding shared vulnerability. The other partner yields, grateful for clarity, yet gradually disengages. Control substitutes for intimacy. Family systems preserve the pattern quietly. At gatherings, one voice dominates decisions, schedules, and opinions, setting the emotional temperature. Others adjust, unconsciously grateful someone is steering. No one evaluates outcomes closely. The dynamic feels familiar, even comforting. In professional environments, the effect intensifies. Meetings reward assertiveness, speed, and confidence under ambiguity. A proposal lacking depth wins approval because it arrives forcefully and early. More thoughtful alternatives remain unspoken or arrive too late. The room prefers closure. Behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner noted that social systems reinforce behaviors that reduce collective discomfort regardless of accuracy. Decisive leaders lower anxiety quickly. Organizations reward that relief. A project fails months later, and responsibility disperses across departments. Authority remains intact. In friendships, advice givers often dominate emotional spaces. One person responds to vulnerability with confident directives rather than listening. The speaker feels managed, not understood. Distance grows silently. In public discussions, certainty wins attention. Panelists who interrupt, assert, and simplify dominate airtime. Nuanced voices struggle to compete. Audiences confuse visibility with expertise. Evolutionary psychologists suggest humans track dominance cues automatically, especially under social stress. Tone, posture, and certainty register faster than evidence. A workplace promotion illustrates this clearly. The most self-assured candidate advances despite weaker performance history. Colleagues rationalize the choice afterward. Confidence becomes proof. Some people will recognize this immediately. Leadership often emerges from who can tolerate scrutiny least and deflect it fastest. Social hierarchies reward those who close conversations rather than open them. In group chats, the same pattern appears digitally. Messages asserting decisions in threads while questions prolong discomfort. Silence follows certainty. The platform rewards finality. Carl Jung observed that collective projections elevate figures who embody what groups fear to confront internally. Uncertainty becomes externalized into leaders who promise order. Those leaders need not understand complexity, only suppress it convincingly. Friendships adapt around these figures. Plans bend, schedules shift, and preferences fade to maintain harmony. No one names the cost. The behavior persists because confrontation feels riskier than accommodation. In romantic beginnings, confidence reads as attraction. Decisive gestures feel safe amid ambiguity. Later, rigidity appears. The early signal was misread. At work, crises amplify the effect. When pressure rises, groups cling to certainty even if it lacks foundation. A forceful manager gains authority during turmoil. The calm is temporary. Consequences arrive later. By then, roles have solidified. Power protects itself through structure, narrative, and expectation. Those beneath adapt by minimizing friction. Feedback disappears. Learning stalls. Most people first see the pattern in someone close. Only later do they notice how often systems reward it. The confusion between competence and confidence spreads quietly through institutions. Modern environments accelerate this process further, making the signal louder and harder to escape. Modern systems quietly magnify this pattern by rewarding speed, certainty, and visibility, while punishing hesitation, reflection, and expressed doubt. Technology accelerates decision cycles, leaving little space for thoughtful evaluation or gradual competence to reveal itself. Digital platforms privilege those who post, speak, and respond first. Confidence fills feeds while caution disappears without trace. A corporate chat lights up during crisis, and the fastest directive gains traction regardless of quality. The room moves because movement feels safer than waiting. Algorithms reinforce this behavior by amplifying assertive language, strong opinions, and definitive conclusions. Ambiguity performs poorly in attention economies. Behavioral science shows that frequent reinforcement shapes behavior faster than long-term feedback ever can. Modern incentives operate on constant reinforcement. The nervous system adapts accordingly. Performance reviews often reward visibility over substance. Those who self-promote dominate meetings and speak confidently about outcomes gain advantage. Quiet competence remains invisible. A manager praises decisiveness while overlooking repeated downstream problems. Short-term relief eclipses long-term cost. Media culture reinforces the archetype relentlessly. Strong leaders are portrayed as unwavering, decisive, and emotionally impermeable. Complexity is edited out. Audiences absorb the signal unconsciously. Educational systems increasingly emphasize participation and presentation. Students learn to speak boldly before understanding fully. Confidence becomes a survival requirement. Those uncomfortable with self-promotion withdraw early. The pipeline narrows. Evolutionary psychologists note that humans are highly sensitive to dominance cues under perceived instability. Modern life feels perpetually unstable. Economic pressure, information overload, and social comparison heighten threat perception. Groups cling to certainty instinctively. Corporate hierarchies intensify the effect. Those at higher levels face fewer consequences for poor decisions. Power insulates confidence from correction. A failed initiative is reframed as strategic learning rather than incompetence. Authority remains intact. Social media accelerates reputation building detached from real-world outcomes. Thought leadership emerges through confident narratives rather than demonstrated results. Followers equate clarity with expertise. The signal spreads rapidly. Even activism and moral discourse reward assertive certainty. Nuanced positions struggle for airtime. Aggressive simplification appears courageous. Complex truth feels weak. Psychologist Albert Bandura described how observational learning spreads behavior without direct experience. Modern culture provides endless demonstrations. Workplaces adopt the same rhythm unconsciously. Fast talkers dominate, slow thinkers adapt or exit. The environment selects for presentation. Hidden psychological costs accumulate quietly. Teams experience burnout, confusion, and disengagement masked by surface alignment. Innovation slows as dissent disappears. The unqualified leader also pays a cost. Maintaining certainty requires constant vigilance. Doubt must be suppressed continuously. The nervous system remains activated. Confidence becomes performance rather than stability. Silence feels dangerous. Mistakes must be reframed quickly to preserve authority. Learning becomes threatening. The system continues rewarding the pattern because it appears functional. Output continues, metrics move, and decisions happen. Deeper erosion remains unseen. Modern amplification does not create the confusion between confidence and competence. The signal grows louder, faster, and more persuasive. Those sensitive to nuance feel increasingly alienated. The question shifts quietly from who is capable to why this keeps happening. It only reveals how thoroughly it is engineered to reward certainty over substance. As awareness deepens, the discomfort grows. Recognizing the pattern does not dissolve it, but rather highlights its persistence in everyday life. People begin to sense that the surface confidence often conceals deeper uncertainties, yet the behavior remains ingrained and reinforced by the environment. In moments of reflection, one notices how frequently assertiveness is rewarded, even when it masks inadequacy or inexperience. The realization is unsettling, revealing that what is perceived as strength may be a survival mechanism rather than genuine competence. In relationships, this awareness can lead to a quiet dissonance, as trust is tested and the underlying dynamics of authority are questioned. A workplace scenario may reveal how decisions made with certainty can leave lasting consequences, even if they were initially comforting. The true cost becomes evident only in hindsight, as the pattern continues to shape interactions and outcomes. Psychologist Carl Jung noted that understanding the shadow self does not erase it. It simply allows for a more honest relationship with it. Thus, the pattern persists, subtly influencing who leads and how authority is perceived. The discomfort of this realization lingers, a quiet reminder that what feels like stability may often be a facade. As awareness grows, the tension between appearance and reality becomes more pronounced, leaving a reflective space that invites deeper inquiry. Yet, no simple solution emerges, and the cycle of confidence and competence continues, leaving the observer with an unresolved insight that challenges conventional understanding. In the end, the awareness itself is the beginning of transformation, even if the resolution remains out of reach, urging a continuous exploration of human behavior and the complexities of leadership.